Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. It's, I was gonna say, what time is it? It's Sat Chat time, or as some of you very fondly refer to this as Saturday morning cartoons for grown-ups, and I absolutely love it. I think that's such a riot. I've got my list of notes here. Hopefully I'll stay on track. I'm filming this on Thursday morning. It's about 11 o'clock, I would say. I can't quite tell because the way my clock is turned, it's got a big old glare around the front of it, probably because I move my lights around a little bit to film Sat Chat. I decided to experiment with a big bow in my hair today. I'm kind of in my big bow era. This is just like a little spring clip, and it's like, it's big enough that I can actually clip up a lot of hair in it, so I've been enjoying that this summer. I have a black one too. My mom gave me these bows. I think she got them for like, I don't know, 5 cents or something. She loves to tell me the deals that she got, and she got these velvet bows, and I'm kind of loving them. She goes to these stores where it'll be like a different price on different days, and she'll go on like the last day when everything is like dirt cheap, and if there's anything good, she'll buy it. She loves a bargain. And I'm like, well, these are actually kind of cute. She does come home with some doozies, I will tell you, some doozies. But this week has been, well, it's been pretty good. I just had my teeth cleaned. I just got back from the dentist, and I was a little concerned because I had, well, and I haven't in like the last week, but I've been having this kind of like, if I drank something cold and sour, like, so say if I had, and I don't drink sugary drinks, but say I had like a Crystal Light or something like that, like a lemonade, or I had just had, or even if I had something that was like, I had a lot of like pickles or something like that, something cold and sour, or something cold and sweet, even artificial like sweetener, I would get this little zing, and I'm like, oh no, because I had some fillings when I was a kid, when I was probably about 10 or 12, like bad dietary habits, eating a lot of candy, not being great about brushing my teeth. And so I'd have some molars filled when I was young. And then I got really good about brushing and flossing and stuff, and didn't have any cavities after that until I was pregnant with my first son. And they say have a baby lose a tooth. I had a tiny little cavity that had to be filled. And that was my first porcelain filling. But anyway, I digress. Over the years, I've had a couple fillings, those old silver fillings that like expanded and cracked the tooth, and so I had to have them replaced with porcelain fillings. And that's kind of what I thought might be happening. About 5 years ago, I had one, and I'd gone to the dentist. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. And she's like, well, you had a big filling in that tooth, and it is like expanding and cracking the tooth. So we can try filling it, but you might have to come back in for a root canal. And so I was like, oh, she goes, if it holds for a year, you're probably good. And this was 5 years ago, no problems. But I still have one silver filling left, and I had a feeling that maybe that was going, but I had my teeth cleaned. I haven't had the pain in like a week. And I'd also been noticing I'd been kind of stressed out, and I've been like clenching, like grinding my teeth and clenching my jaws a lot. So I'm like, when I catch myself, I've been saying, don't do that. And then I haven't had any pain. It was funny because we were on this road trip with my friends down to the stamp show, and I was saying, it's the weirdest thing. When I get stressed, I will get a toothache. And my friend Cindy's like, Lindsay, it's because you just said you grind your teeth when you're stressed out. You are getting a toothache because you're grinding your teeth. And so I don't know why I didn't like put two and two together. But because sometimes I'll go in there and I'm just like, your teeth are really shiny. I can tell you've been grinding. So I've been like just making a very like conscious decision not to clench my jaw, because I do it during the day. Like I don't hear myself. Jason says he never hears me grind my teeth, but I definitely clench my jaw when I'm stressed. And so just like kind of taking that mental cue to relax, and it did the job. So I told the dentist about that. I'm like, can you look and see? And she's like, well, you do have some gum recession. I've always had gum recession because I used to really aggressively brush my teeth with a toothbrush that was way too hard. Because I went a few years where I didn't go to the dentist. We've all had those few years in our youth, right? And I did have, and then she like touched the root area where I had that gum recession, and that was exactly the same feeling. So luckily she's like, well, hopefully that's all it is, but if you want to come back and book an x-ray, then we can do that. I don't like to do additional x-rays if it's not possible. I recently read a report where like people are getting cancer from the overuse of dental, and don't take I'm not a doctor or dentist or anything. I just read articles, and you probably shouldn't take anything I say seriously. But there'd been a recent report on like a rise in cancer with the overuse of dental imaging, like CT scans and x-rays and stuff. So, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just had the girls, when they had their wisdom teeth out, they wanted to do CT scans. And I said, sure. I said, if you need to, go for it, you know? And I'm like, gosh, should I have been more skeptical of that or pushed back against that? But I don't know. You do what the doctor says and you hope for the best, right? Plus I don't have dental insurance. So, you know, I pay everything out of pocket, and, you know, which really makes me extra good about flossing every night and brushing 2 or 3 times a day, because like I want to make sure I avoid any unnecessary fillings or whatnot. But anyway, oversharing, that's my, that's that chat for you. So anyway, that's what I was up to this morning. So I was really happy that there didn't seem to be any problems with that filling, with my remaining silver filling, because I'd rather keep that in as long as possible and then just have it, you know, have it replaced as needed. But I don't like elective things, not at all. And so I got back and I walked the dog, and I want to tell you about this story, tell you about this experience that I had. I was walking the dog the other day, and I don't think I mentioned this. I meant to mention this in Sat Chat because I thought it just kind of like, it was like a little light bulb moment. But I was walking the dog, and there's this little road that I don't know who built it. It's not like a public road or anything. It's just like a little road that goes off into the woods. And I don't know who owns the property. And I saw the person that was adjacent to that little road working in out in his driveway. So I stopped, and I had the dog with me, and I asked him if he knew who owns that property, because I like to find different places to walk the dog, and she likes to walk in the woods, and I usually walk on the trails behind another person's house that I have permission to walk. And he goes, oh yeah, the guy that owns that, he was going to just put a house in back there, but something happened and I couldn't get the permitting or whatnot, so it's just kind of out, it just goes out and it's cleared off. He goes, but I bet it does meet up with some of those ATV trails. And he said, I don't think you'd have a problem with you walking on it at all, because I mentioned I like to walk the dog in the woods. He goes, yeah, I see you out walking every single day, man, I wish I did that. And hearing that, like something that I kind of think, because I'm always thinking, oh, I don't do enough, I don't exercise enough, I don't walk long enough, or I should be running. Walking isn't good enough, I should actually be out here jogging. You know, we kind of like admonish ourselves for what we should be doing, and we don't take a second to appreciate what we actually do, and how other people can look at what we do and be like, oh man, I wish I did that. I wish I, you know, did some art. I wish I walked every day. I would. So kind of think about that, like when you're feeling bad about yourself and what you think you should be doing, think about what you actually are doing and appreciate that is more than what some other people are doing that they wish they could do that much. So it was just a good little bit of perspective, and I thought I would mention it because I don't know, I've been getting down on myself about like, why haven't I had the kayak out yet? Why? And I do think I should be making the time to get the kayak out. I haven't had it out yet this summer, which is crazy to be this far into summer. But instead of like, you know, beating myself up, just think, okay, you know, what have I done? Okay, I haven't done that because I've been doing this. And give yourself a break, and you know, make time for the things you want to do, but don't like, you know, shit all over yourself because you're not doing the things you think you should be doing. And I know I've said that before, and you guys have said that to me before, but you know, I think it's something that is good to repeat. So anyway, I also want to tell you, because I love to do my book recommendations. This has nothing to do with art, but I've been reading this. Jason got me this for my birthday. Look how far I started this last week. Look how far in I am. That's how much I have left. I am like probably like about between a quarter and a fifth left, and I am absolutely loving this book. I heard about it, and I listened to the author, Dr. Anna Lembke, on some podcasts before. And I'm like, oh, I really want to read that book. And the thing that so far I'm taking away from this that kind of blows my mind. I am somebody that definitely gravitates towards excessive behavior and excessive, just excess. I don't know why. I'm very goal oriented, and I'm always kind of striving for that next thing that's going to change my whole life and make me feel so much happier. And one thing she talks about in this book is how anything can be addictive if you take it too far. And I'd heard because I mentioned before in Sat Chat that I never really thought, and I still don't think I ever had a drinking problem, but I would have a couple cocktails on the weekends, or I would have a glass of wine, like by the fire while I'm reading, or go out with friends for dinner, like on the weekends, and we'd have a cocktail. So not like heavy use by any means, but I was kind of wondering if that habit was keeping me from like leveling up, feeling the best that I could be. So I just cut it out. I stopped drinking for 9 months. I didn't have a single glass of wine, a single drop of anything. But I intended to have some cocktails on the cruise I went on with my friends, and so I did that. And so for the first thing is like, I did not notice any significant benefit to not drinking for 9 months. Now, obviously, I don't have a substance abuse problem, so I want to be completely clear. I'm not saying that like, hey, it's not worth it. Everybody has their own circumstances, but I was expecting that I was going to have this huge, like, burst of like way more energy, and I thought I was gonna just drop 10 pounds without even trying, and those are these things that I thought was gonna happen because it's just empty calories. And if I stop doing that, a couple of cocktails a week, that's gonna be like that would equal up to 10 pounds in a year, something, wouldn't it? But I must have been knowing that I'm not having that and having other things in its place. So I didn't level up, and I was like complaining to my friends I was going on the cruise with. It's like, I thought that I would have this huge, big change in my life by doing this. And they look at me, they're like, you don't drink enough for that to make a big difference, I don't think. And so I got thinking about that, of the dose making the poison, because there'd been a lot of research. I love to read research, as you could tell by the lack of wanting to get x-rays done and everything. I love to read scientific articles and medical articles, but I have no scientific training. I have no medical training, so I'm reading these articles that have been dumbed down to the likes of me, and then be like, oh, I'm going to stop doing that, and I'm going to change my whole life, and then I am disappointed when doing that doesn't change my whole life. But we do the best with the information that we have. But anyway, she's a psychiatrist, and she talks about helping people with various addictions or various overuse, things that they want to stop. And I found it was really interesting. She's talking about dopamine, and she shared a quote by another person that was something like, we are like cactuses that are trying to adapt to living in the rainforest. And that's how we are adapting to living in this time of plenty, where there is, cheap calories everywhere. There is cheap alcohol everywhere. There is excessive shopping. There's excessive sweets. There's excessive, all these things that are fine in moderation, that their bodies have been designed to, seek out. If you were a cave person, you'd want to be finding as much high calorie food as you could, because it would be a long time before you could find it again. So we evolved to want to consume as much of that stuff as we could. But now we're in this time of plenty where you can get all this stuff by one click or one phone call or just wandering out of your house. How do we deal with our evolution not changing so that we still crave all that stuff, but keeping it within moderation so we don't do damage to ourselves? And it's a very interesting read. I think we all have behaviors where they would not classify as like a clinical addiction, things that we would like to change a little bit, either things we want to do more of or things we want to do less of. And it's funny because it talks about self-binding, which is something that I do all the time. I never knew there was a name for it, but it's like, if I feel like I'm getting out of hand with like buying art supplies, I'll be like, I'm not buying an art supply for a month. I'm doing a month no buy. And people will be like, you're not really, you do this for your job. It's not a problem. Well, yeah, it might not be a problem, but if I feel like I'm out of control a little bit, then that's what I'll do. Or if I feel like there are certain foods that are like, I cannot eat in moderation. So it's like, if I buy a bag of potato chips, I need to be okay with the fact that I'm going to eat that bag of potato chips. I'll share it with anybody that wants some, but that's not going to survive 3 days in my house. Or if I buy the plant-based mayo, the Hellmann's plant-based mayo, it is complete garbage. I mean, it's so delicious, but it is just empty calories. I know that I'm going to go through that in a month, and nobody else eats it, so it's just going to be me going through that in a month, and I've got to be okay with that. So for the most part, I usually just don't have it in the house because I can't eat it in moderation. And so, it's just something that I do naturally. It's like, oh wow, that's interesting. That's one of the things that she talks about. So anyway, I find it's, if you struggle with moderation, I struggle with moderation so badly. This may be something that's helpful for you. I just want to put it out there. Plus, it's really interesting because she has used stories from her patients with their permission, and it's just really interesting to see the things that people struggle with, stuff that might not tempt you whatsoever, but it's interesting to see how they deal with those struggles and how different techniques work for them to live the life they want to live. I mean, I think that's it. It's only an addiction if it's interfering with your life and it's a problem, and it's you're feeling shame about it. If it's something that you feel like you need to hide from people, then maybe it's something you want to look at maybe treating in a more responsible manner. I don't know. But I'm finding it interesting. Obviously, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a therapist, but I'm enjoying that immensely. Another thing that I tend to do, like especially in the winter, I definitely veer towards being a bit of a workaholic. And, you know, just like anything, having a good work ethic is good, but if you tip over to the edge where you're not spending time with your friends and family, and you're not spending time on your health, and you're neglecting other responsibilities, then, you know, it can be a problem. And I know in this society where people have to work 2 jobs to make ends meet, that's a very privileged thing to say. But I mean, but then again, they're probably not workaholics or doing out of necessity. If you're working because you're just like, oh, just one more thing, it's where it's like an addiction. And that's kind of how I feel. It's like, yeah, I love what I do, and it can be an addiction to the point where it's like, okay, I'm not getting joy from this anymore. It's not, you know, I'm just doing more for the sake of doing more. Then that's a problem. Anyway, I think it's eye-opening. It's definitely worth a read, and I'm enjoying it. I always like to see what makes our brains tick. Speaking of our brains ticking, this project is up now in Critique Club. I wanted to do a lesson where I approached a sketch like I would approach it outdoors, like sketching on location, sketching from real life. So I thought that and share was the prompt for World Watercolor Month, so I used watercolor crayons and did this. Well, I started with this sketch here, because that's kind of how I would go. I'd probably just try to dive in and do one sketch. And then if I had more time and there were maybe more people and I could like make it spread across 2 pages, that's what I would do, and that's what I did here. So if you're kind of interested in that process, you could check that out in Critique Club. There's a time lapse up on YouTube right now if you want to kind of get the Cliff Notes version. But the one in Critique Club is fully narrated, so you're hearing what would be going through my mind, why I'm making these choices as I go through. I lost, and this happens all the time, I lost my black crayon as I was working, and I had to use a gray one, so that's why the shadows aren't so dark on that one. But I found my black crayon after I was cleaning up, but I didn't go back in and change it because I rarely go back and change anything I do on location, so I thought that would be kind of fun. I'm also thinking I need to change my heathen ways about not using fixative in my sketchbooks, because usually I just work on one side of the page, but I worked on both sides, and I had a Conte sketch or pastel sketch, and it was a 2-page spread, and it completely like smushed over each other. So I'm like, oh, I need to be using fixative. I need to be bringing, like, even if I just bring, and I know, don't leave comments. I know some of you are just itching to leave a comment here. I might put a travel size thing of Aquanet in my bag so I can do that on the go, because I'm not selling those sketches that are in those books. Those are, if I was going to sell it, I wouldn't use Aquanet or whatever, but I might just put a travel hairspray in there, because right now, let me just show you what I'm not selling. These messy things. I generally don't sell things for my sketchbook. I might if it's a spiral bound one, but I mean, not that anyone would want to buy that anyways, but now I got 2 sailboats, because the sailboat from over there has transferred over there because of me sketching on top of that, and it kind of transferring by pressure. I could fix it. That's not a big problem. Like here, look, I've got 2 drawings for the price of 1 because that transferred over there. It's not that big of a problem. It didn't really alter that. I don't like to use fixative because it makes my whites disappear. And like here, this, but I feel like the original one is fine. It did just transfer over there too. But I've got a lot like that, and yeah, I really should spray some of those. But anyway, acrylic mark. Maybe I should use more acrylic markers in my sketchbooks, because those don't seem to transfer. They're fine. But anyway, I do enjoy using the Conte. I think I just need to put something in there for my sketchbooks, because. And then on the other hand, once I take a photo of it, and I take a photo of it before I close my sketchbook, I'm very uninterested in revisiting it a lot of times, except for like maybe flipping through the sketchbook a few years down the road. But I would like to have them not be all smeary. And I don't want to carry, I don't think they make a travel size artist grade fixative. So hairspray it is. Just the cheap, go get some cheap dollar store hairspray, because that won't have all the conditioners and silicones and things like that make a good hairspray. You know, keeps the hairspray from like just being glue that kills your hair, all that good stuff. They don't put that in the cheap hairspray. And that's basically glue, which is basically what your artist fixative is. I had an art teacher tell me that once, and I was like, interesting. But yeah, big fixative wants you to buy. I'm going to make somebody very angry in my comments, I can just tell by saying that. But if you're not worried about it lasting 100 years, then use a hairspray. Don't worry about it. if you are worried about it lasting 100 years, go use expensive artist fixative. I have no horse in this race. You use whatever you want to use. Let's see what I intended to talk about today, shall we? Actually, you know, it hasn't, I haven't really had that much important things to talk about, to be honest. Oh my gosh, so speaking of the dentist, so the other night I was, my friend Lorraine had posted these beautiful garden photos, and she said, oh, I went to the open gardens in Blue Hill. And I'm like, what is this place? I've never heard of this place. And so I Googled it, because that's what I do before I ask questions. I Google things, because if I see a lot of questions on being asked online, on like threads, especially on Facebook, where it's like, you could have just Googled that and not bothered this person. So I just Googled first, and I found this, it was called like the Native Maine Gardens of Blue Hill or something like that. And it turns out they're having this open house on Saturday, and they're doing workshops. They're doing a workshop on attracting birds to your garden, which I thought my husband might like, and they're doing a nature journaling workshop and a watercolor workshop, and each of those workshops are just like half an hour long. So, you know, they're not going to be too in-depth, but I thought, oh, that might be kind of nice to go to, plus see a different garden. And so Lorraine said that, I said, is this the place? And so I left a link to that open house, and she goes, well, this place is owned by the head of the Maine Audubon. And I'm like, well, that person's giving a speech here, and it seems to be in the same place. So anyway, I had texted that to what I thought was a few of my friends that I paint with. They're fellow YouTubers. I've mentioned them before on the channel, Karen, Shanna, and Angela. And I'm like, oh, we should do this. It's going to be Saturday. It's free. So I leave this whole big message. And then I'm 3 messages in before I realize I am texting my dentist and not my friends. And then so I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. This was meant for my painting group. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I could delete the whole thread before they even see it. And so I hit the 3 dots up there. I delete it. I just deleted the entire thread I've ever had with my dentist, or probably my dentist secretary, forever. I did not delete theirs. And then I get a message yesterday saying, well, have a great time. It was a secretary, because when I got to my dental appointment today, I was joking with the dentist. She's like, oh yeah, I didn't get that. And then so the secretary pops right in and she goes, did you have a good time? I'm like, it's not till Saturday, but thanks. You guys are welcome to come. But, oh my gosh, it's those bonehead things, you know, so relatable, right? We all do those bonehead things. It's a good thing I don't have a psychiatrist, because I'd be already texting them random things thinking I'm texting my painting group. It'd be worse, I guess, if I texted my painting group thinking I was texting a psychiatrist. Actually, no, they're basically my psychiatrists when you think about it. The stuff that we share in that group, we're basically all each other's therapy at this point. But yeah, I thought that was kind of funny, and I would share that. But, so I've been gardening, and this kind of ties into the dentist thing, because I've been eating a lot of kale, and the kale gets stuck in my teeth, and that's another reason why I have to floss, like a person addicted to flossing. Maybe I'm addicted to dental care, I don't know. But I floss a lot because my teeth are really close together, so I always get kale and broccoli and like popcorn kernels stuck in there, and I cannot stand to have anything between my teeth. And just like I can't stand to have a rough fingernail, and that's probably some sort of mental condition. I will probably read a book about it and tell you all about it at one point. There's going to be some insurance companies going to be like, we're not taking on this woman, because once she realizes that we cover mental health care, then she's going to bankrupt us. So anyway, we've been growing kale. It's been doing so well in our backyard. We've never really gardened before. And earlier this week, I don't know if a bear came by or a deer or something. It totally wiped out our tomato plants. Like, it mowed them down. It ate a bunch of the kale. It didn't seem to like the lettuce. What else did it eat? It ate all of our peppers. We had these pepper plants here where they didn't have any peppers yet, but they had little flowers on them. It just completely munched the entire peppers down to the stalk. Like, there was no recovering them, so we had to pull those out. And we had to pull out a couple of tomato plants that it completely ate, and the tomato plants were like 3 feet high. I could not believe it. And we were able to save like 2 or 3 of the tomato plants. I think we had 6, and they have tomatoes on them, so I'm hoping they don't come back and eat them. But I don't know what it would have done that. What would have left the lettuce but eaten the tomatoes and peppers? It's so bizarre. And our hostas are right up in our little front flower garden. We always had the hostas there. They come back every year. Those were totally mowed down by the deer, I'm assuming. So it's tough. There have been deer in our backyard. They're so cute. They're so pretty. You know, I don't want to scare them off. They like to eat the food I put out for the crows. But it's like, man, come on, dude. You can eat the stuff on the stump. You can eat the things that are growing wild. You can eat the clover in the lawn. Just don't touch the gardens that clearly are human made. Come on, man. You know, it's like, you know, do the vegetarian a solid and don't, you know, don't eat their garden. But anyway, that was kind of interesting. There was also this really big poop on the ground, which I think was a bear poop, because it didn't look like a dog, and it was way too big to be a deer. Maybe it's a moose. I don't know. I thought I saw moose tracks when I was walking in the woods the other day. So who can say? I've never seen a moose in this area, but people have. People see bears in this area. I've never seen one, probably because I'm out walking the dog in the woods and she's kind of loud, and you know, they would probably see us way before we'd see them, and they would scurry on along. But it's just a bummer. It's a bummer when you're like, you finally get something to grow, and I say we. We is doing some heavy lifting because it's all my husband that's doing all this gardening that I occasionally go out and spray with a hose. And I will help you eat the garden, like the little red hen. I go out and I harvest. And I make sure that no vegetables get left behind, that no vegetables go to waste. But yeah, it's been really nice. It's been nice to go out and pick things. We did a little cherry tomato plant up on the deck. We tried, because last year we bought this ridiculously expensive tomato plant. It was $40 hanging basket, but it was so heavy that like we didn't dare hang it. We just had it sitting up on the railing on the deck, which is, it's really high up, so no animals are going to go up there except for maybe like a squirrel or something might climb up there. But you know, you're not going to get deer or anything up there. And it had so many tomatoes. It was called a Tumbling Tom, and we bought it at the greenhouse. And I mean, it was late in the season too, and we got it, and the stalk was kind of splitting, and we had to tape it up. But it had so many tomatoes. I was getting like salads full of tomatoes every day from that little plant. And this year we thought we would be smart and not spend $40 on a tomato plant and buy just a regular tomato plant and pot it ourselves. And it's just like a stick with a couple red tomatoes. It's like died from the leaves down. I don't know what happened to it. It just did not thrive. So I don't know, next year I'm going to pony up for the good plant. I don't know what happened to that tomato, why it didn't go. It looked like, you know, when you watch a movie about like some aftermath of a nuclear event, and you just see like, you know, the gardens, and it's just like a dead sticks with like maybe a little tomato hanging. That's what it looks like. It looks like it was like a Chernobyl tomato plant or something. And I don't know why. It had good soil. It had plenty of light. It was watered. I don't know. I also bought some lavender when I went to paint at the lavender farms, and it is completely dying. I think I overwatered it. I hadn't taken it out of the pot yet. It definitely needs to go in the ground. So I'm going to dig a hole, and I'm going to plop it in, and I'm going to hope for the best, because I have nothing to lose at this point. It was expensive too. It was $15 for a little lavender. Anyway, it's funny how some things grow and some things don't. It seems to be the part of the equation where plants don't seem to do well. It seems to be me, although I had nothing to do with that tomato plant on the deck. That just seemed to die on its own. But anyway, we didn't really talk about much art this week. Sorry about that. I hope you enjoyed your Sat Chat Saturday morning cartoons. Let me know what you're up to in the comments below. And until next time, happy crafting. Bye.